Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host, Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So the last video I did, I was talking about how we need to kind of learn from our experiments of doing different diets in the past and what worked for each person and what didn't. And today I thought I'd talk about what I've learned from my own diet experiments over the years and what I've taken away from those experiments and those trials and those times when I've done different diets, what I've taken away from it that I've learned about myself that has not worked for me. Okay, so from all the different diets I've tried and done, what is it that I've learned that my body does not react well to? And before I go into it, I just want to mention too, though, that what doesn't work for me might work for someone else, okay? And I'm fully aware of it, and I'm just sharing my own personal experience as to what are the things that don't work for me and what I've learned. And I'm sharing this so that maybe perhaps you look at your own experiments and your own sort of diet history and what you've tried and experimented with to see, and think about what is it that worked for you and what didn't work for you. Because I find the more people know what don't work for them, the more then they're able to make better decisions with their food and get the results they want. Okay, so the first thing that didn't work for me is eating too much fruit. I get hyperpigmentation from too much fruit. Okay, and I'm sure if I had also a diet that had a lot of sugar in it, I'd probably get hyperpigmentation from that as well. I don't eat much sugar, so my main source of sugar in my diet is fruit. Does that mean I cut out fruit? No. It just means I have to be very, very mindful with the quantities, because if I'm eating too much of it, and especially if I'm in Canada over the summer where the sun is strong, or living here in Southeast Asia where we're near the equator and the sun is very strong, I get hyperpigmentation from it. So I do eat fruit every day, but I have to just watch the quantities. Having a few pieces of fruit is not a big deal, but if I go like a long stretch of time eating a high fruit diet or doing a cleanse of eating only fruit, and I'm doing it for days and days or longer than that, then I will get hyperpigmentation. And it's always the same place on my face as well. It's always right around here and around here. And it pretty much just looks like that part of my skin is dirty, but if I try and wash it off, it doesn't come off, or it looks like a giant freckle. And it gets darker and darker in the hotter months where I'm getting some sun exposure. So I want to prevent that, obviously, so I have to be mindful with the quantities of fruit. But again, I don't cut it out, I just watch how much I'm eating every day. The next thing that I have problems with is eating too much fats from, I would say, avocado, and also from nuts pretty much. Seeds not an issue, but if I have too much avocado, I get really bad congestion and really bad sinus problems. And I would say if I have more than a half an avocado or more than one avocado a day, I will immediately have like burning sinuses. And the same thing goes with nuts. I don't have the issue so much with seeds, but nuts I do as well. If I eat too much, I can eat a little bit, no problem, and I have avocado all the time and nuts also all the time. But if suddenly I have more than one avocado in a day, or if I have more than a handful of nuts, I'm gonna have some serious sinus issues, and it's painful, painful. So again, I have to be mindful with the quantities and moderate with that. The next thing that I have a problem with, I would say, is a lot of people out there say that as long as you're eating healthy, it doesn't matter how much you're eating. For me, that's a total lie. Okay, that if I eat too much health food, no matter what it is, I will gain weight. And I have firsthand experience of doing that and experiencing that when I was, and I've mentioned this before in other videos, was when I did a raw food diet. I gained 30 pounds. It wasn't immediate, but it was over a course of a few years that I was just constantly gaining more and more weight because I was eating so much of it. And it doesn't matter how healthy it is for myself, because perhaps maybe my metabolism, if I had a stronger metabolism and a higher metabolism, maybe I could eat all that I wanted and not gain any weight. But in my case, it doesn't matter how healthy it is or not. If I eat too much of anything, it's not a good thing, and I do gain weight. So I always have to be also mindful of the quantities. And another thing that never worked for me would be, I would say, raw chocolate. I love raw chocolate, and I have it once in a while, not a problem. But if I would say, if I'd have it more than maybe 3 days in a row, the moment I would stop having it, I get really depressed. And I also notice too, if I have too much of it, would feel like I'm jumping out of my skin. I feel like I'm overstimulated, like I've had too much caffeine or something. It's pretty much the theobromine, and it's just too stimulating for me. I am caffeine sensitive to begin with. That same thing goes with having raw chocolate. I don't have that same effect with having cooked chocolate or roasted chocolate, but when it comes down to raw chocolate, I feel like I'm jumping out of my skin, and if I have it too many days in a row, then once I stop having it because I'm jumping out of my skin, it's like almost like the next day I feel like I'm going through withdrawal. I hit a low, I crash pretty much, and I get depressed, or I feel like something's missing for a few days. I don't like that feeling. And so that for me is something that I have to be mindful that I can have it once in a while, and I do, but I just make sure I don't have it a few days in a row, maybe just once and then wait a few days and have it again, or wait a few weeks or a few months even. It's not something I have on a regular basis. I know other people are fine with it, they have no problems, but for me, it's an issue. I would say another thing that I have an issue with is too much exercise. And I've done a video, I think, of this as well, is that if I exercise more than an hour a day intensely, I tend to overeat. And mainly because I get dehydrated, and because if I'm doing an intense exercise, let's say I decide to double up a group fitness class and do 2 classes in a row, then I find that when I get home I'm so dehydrated and so hungry that I overeat, and it kind of counters any kind of effort I make, that I'm actually better off exercising less than an hour a day, and then it actually helps to decrease my appetite, and I'm able, if I'm trying to lose weight, or to get the results I want. But if I'm over exercising, then I'm overeating, and then I'm gaining weight and I feel terrible. So that's something too that I've noticed, that the less the better, and I find I'm actually much better just having constant movement throughout the day, like doing housework, taking care of my daughter, moving around, walking around, things like that, doing a lot of that, and then doing shorter bursts of intense exercise, like maybe doing like a 20-minute intense workout. That is actually better for me than sitting around all day on the computer and then going to like 2 fitness classes and over exercising in a period of time. That doesn't work for me. So I've learned too that it's about finding exercise too that works for you, because some of healthy exercise can actually go against some of your goals as well. And lastly, I think the last thing that I've learned for myself is to be careful whose advice you're following, and to always take things with a grain of salt. I remember years ago, and I'll never forget this, was that there was a health blog that I followed a lot, and I loved it. And they were once showing sort of, I guess like a demo of how to make homemade toothpaste. And I got really excited about it, and I made it, and it was out of clay, and it so adversely affected my teeth. I used it maybe just for like a week maybe, or even less, but my teeth, my gums were so irritated by this homemade natural toothpaste that I think I was left in pain for a good 2 weeks. My mouth was that sensitive from it. And the good thing is I learned that if you actually brush your teeth with coconut oil, and just coconut oil, for when you have really sensitive teeth, it can actually help to decrease the sensitivity, at least for me. And I also learned, because I emailed the person telling them what happened, and I was surprised by their reply, was that they never even tried out that demo on themselves. Like that they just put it out there because on paper it looked great, but they never did it more than once. And there they are, like sharing this information, and people like me are doing it because we trusted what they'd said and had bad reaction. And so I learned from that you have to be really careful. Like, even though people's intentions are great, what you gather from books or from the internet is, you have to be careful with it, that not everything is going to work for you, and to keep that in mind. So these are some of the things that I've learned through my experiments through the years as to what doesn't work for me personally. But these things might work for you, but they don't work for me. And it'd be interesting too if you want to share what doesn't work for you too. I'd love to hear it. All right, have a super fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.